Welcome to the Fantasy Football News Week 12 edition. I am your host, Eric. The completion of Week 12 leaves us with just 2 weeks before the start of the playoffs. The standings are tightening up, and there really is a legitimate road to the trophy for 7 of our 10 teams, while 9 of 10 could possibly end up finishing at 500 or better. No team has clinched a playoff spot yet, but I expect that next week we will see that happen. Remember to keep a close eye on those lineups and watch those pregame injury reports to make sure your favorite starter is playing. With that, on to the news. First matchup this week was Rebel Scum versus Wu-Tang Cash. In Week 4, the 3-0 Rebel Scum faced off against the 3-0 Wu-Tang Cash, two of only 3 teams at the time left undefeated. Rebel Scum won that matchup and went on to win 2 more after. Unfortunately, this match was the beginning of hardship for Wu-Tang Cash. Facing off here in Week 12, Wu-Tang Cash has only managed 2 more wins since that 3-0 start. Rebel Scum, on the other hand, sits at 7-4 and at the top of their division. Last week, Rebel Scum made the daring decision to start Cam Newton over Kirk Cousins, a decision that worked out well. Hoping to catch one more ride on the Dragon this week, Rebel Scum again chose Cam Newton over Kirk Cousins. Week 12 was not nearly as kind as Cam managed a meager 6.18 points. That was just the beginning of the woes for Rebel Scum, as 7 of their 9 starters scored 6.5 points or fewer. The Scum Squad's 58.38 points is the lowest point total that manager Eric has ever posted in a fantasy football match, as Wu-Tang Cash rolls to an easy victory, 128.06 to 58.38. Next up for Rebel Scum is a visit from Team Marty, while Garbage Time hops in the truck to head out to the Wu-Tang Dome.
Blame it all on football. I can't win them all. The points, they just were not there. Crowder scored 1. Elliott almost none. Cam Newton's interceptions weren't rare. Kittle didn't play hard. He needed more yards. The Niners, they still won that game. And I toasted Rob, said Wu-Tang, our game is through. But now I just want to complain because I've got scores in low places. I just cannot win in these tight playoff races. I was blown away, but I'll be okay because I've got scores in low places.
Our second matchup this week, Sandlot Turf Burners versus Stars and Stripes. Stars and Stripes started off this season red hot, winning 5 in a row and sitting at the top of their division. After dropping 5 of their last 7, they are still managing a tenuous hold on the top spot in their division. The Team Deathrager and the resurgent Turf Burns are hot on their heels. Turf Burns managed to overcome their early season curse and string together 4 wins in a row while winning 5 of their last 6. Stars and Stripes had a stellar 30.8-point performance from Joe Mixon that was tempered by the rather pedestrian 24.22-point effort from quarterback Justin Herbert. Sandlot Turf Burns saw Leonard Fournette post a season-high 41.1 points, while top waiver acquisition Cordarrelle Patterson managed 27 points as the Turf Burns held on to this one, 142.98 to 101.42. Turf Burns will meet up with Washington Fantasy in an important battle for one of those coveted playoff spots. Stars and Stripes gets the visit from the Generic Football Team. Our third matchup, Generic Football Team versus Garbage Time. Garbage Time inches closer to division leader Rebel Scum with their victory this week over the Generic Football Team. Only 19.31 points separate the top 2 teams in the Rough and Tumble South Division. With 29.8 points from Dak Prescott and 4 other players managing 15-point-plus performances, Garbage Time was easily able to fend off a 71.1-point effort from the GFT. More on the GFT's issues in a bit. Garbage Time takes the win here, 132.35 to 71.1. Week 13 has the GFT visiting the Stars and Stripes, and Garbage Time heads into the Wu-Tang Dome for a clash that has playoff seeding implications. Our fourth matchup this week, Washington Fantasy versus Team Deathrager. Seldom do we get to see a matchup between 2 high-octane offenses as they are both firing on all cylinders. Week 11's top 2 scoring teams met up in Week 12 here as Washington Fantasy played Team Deathrager. A.A. Ron Rodgers continues to produce for Washington Fantasy, posting 30.78 points, while Tony Pollard managed a 24.8-point performance. You've heard us speak multiple times on the quarterback carousel situation over at Team Deathrager. Having to choose between number 1 scoring QB Josh Allen or number 5 Tom Brady each week has been a tightrope that managers Jalila and Nick have walked successfully until now. We'll hear more on that in a moment. Washington Fantasy snatches the win here, 119.63 to 98.65. The loss by Team Deathridger allowed Stars and Stripes to retake the North Division lead by less than half a point. Washington Fantasy travels to the Sandlot to square off against the Turf Burns as Team Deathridger heads out to meet up with Team Scott Scott. And now we bring you our weekly $5 contest winner. Our Week 12 contest was lowest score for a winning team. Team Marty pulled out the win of that $5 this week with a 74.96 point winning effort against Team Scott Scott. The contest for Week 13 will be highest score for a losing team. Good luck to everyone. Do I smell hot dogs?
Hot dog. It's Week 12. Hot dog. The team just ain't themselves. Hot dog. You need to make better moves. Hot dog, hot dog, hot diggity dog.
Hi, I'm Frank, the fantasy football wiener. Team Deathridger chose poorly.
He chose poorly.
As they went with Tom Brady in a week 13.24 point effort over absolute baller Josh Allen, who managed 34.7 points, just enough to cost them the win. Jalila and Nick are fantasy football wieners. Helen could have started either of the defensive units sitting on her bench and pulled out a win. Helen is a fantasy football wiener. Of course, Team Marty could have counteracted that by benching the injured A.J. Brown. Hint, hint, he will be out at least 2 more games. Veronica is a fantasy football wiener. Randy, buddy, I'm not sure what is going on in the front offices over at Generic Stadium, but it seems like Randy just cannot catch a break. Benching Matt Stafford for Lamar cost 13.3 points. Starting Godwin over Waddle in the flex spot cost another 22. Cole Kmet would have added another 9.1 in the tight end spot, and running back Boston Scott would have netted 12.2 more than the goose egg by injured Mark Ingram. Then add in 17 more points from the defense and kicker that didn't start, and this could have been a win for the GFT. Randy is a fantasy football wiener. That's it for me, folks. Hope to catch up with you later.
Hot dog. It's Week 12. Hot dog. The team just ain't themselves. Hot dog. You need to make better moves. Hot dog, hot dog, hot diggity dog.
And now, Mike's crappy game of the week. It's Mike's crappy game of the week.
Game of the week.
It's Mike's crappy game of the week.
Game of the week.
It's Mike's crappy game of the week.
What is it?
It's really crappy. It's the game of the weekend. It's Mike's crappy game of the week. While the 146.66 total points scored in this match is not a record low, it is very close. Team Marty versus Team Scott Scott was an absolute garbage fest. Neither team here posted a score over 75, and yet neither team was the lowest scorer of the week, thanks to Rebel Scum. Team Scott Scott managed a 20.3 point effort from Debo Samuel, while Team Marty coaxed 20.7 points from Adam Thielen. These were the 2 bright spots in this match, as both teams also had 0 points scored for at least one position. Final score in this stinker, Team Marty grabs the W, 74.96 to 71.7. Team Marty will take on the Rebel Scum in Week 13. Team Scott Scott gets a visit from Team Deathridger. That's going to do it here for Week 12. Thank you again for watching. Don't forget to keep an eye on those injury reports and make changes as needed. Teams on bye this week are the Panthers, Browns, Packers, and Titans. Some big names will be missing out on Week 13 action. Have a great week. Good luck to everyone but Veronica. And remember, here at Fantasy Football News, we're still just barely better than you.